to another episode of Unfiltered Rugby League, hosted by Conor and
Shay.
And today it'll be episode 5, where we'll be going through our top 5 signings in Super League this year and who we think's going to have the greatest impact. Shay, good to be here as always.
Yeah, good to be here as always.
Looking forward to this one. Hopefully we're not going to have the same ones. We've not spoke about this before either, so we promise it's going to be off the cuff, as we say, unfiltered. We're going to see kind of what's going to come to our minds, I suppose, when we speak about different players. There's been a fair few, but some clubs have sort of held out, so we kind of went through different clubs. I think we'd probably struggle with some clubs, I reckon.
Yeah, we'd probably struggle with a few, but there's been a lot of... it feels like there's been more than previous years, doesn't it? A lot of business done. I think it's obviously with the teams coming up as well. It seems like they've obviously done... Well, Bradford and York have done a lot of business, so... Yeah, there's a fair bit to talk about.
Yeah, well, I reckon, mate, I'm happy for you to kick us off. I've got my first one ready, so they're not in any particular order, but I think probably the first one that comes to mind would probably be someone maybe that you think is going to have a greater impact overall. Towards the end of the podcast, we'll discuss and go through maybe our top 3 who we think will have maybe like the greatest impact between the players that we've chosen. So over to you, mate. Who do you think is sort of a positive signing for a club this season?
First one, and I know you'll definitely have this one, Jackson Hastings. Yeah, Saints are crying out for an half, aren't they? Obviously that was the main topic of discussion last year, was the spine. It just wasn't working with Johnny Lomax and Tristan Saylor. They brought in obviously Hastings, who can guide team around park, good kicking game. Also looks like he's going to be the goal kicker as well, which is massive, because I know you guys have lacked that over previous years, probably since our last guest, Danny Richardson.
Yeah, they've never quite recovered, have they, since Danny Richardson left the club, and obviously the kicking that he brought. It's a massive part of the game, isn't it, the kicking, and probably sometimes maybe just underrated, I suppose, not thought about. It felt like St Helens went without a proper goal kicker, and before they used to throw Makinson in sometimes, then obviously last year they've got Percival kicking, then they've got who else were kicking for him? Johnny Lomax kicking, John Bennison kicking, and there were just never that consistency. You knew if Saints were 16-10 down and the score with 6 minutes left, yeah, they might score 2 tries, but there's probably a greater likelihood of them scoring 2 extra tries than scoring a try and converting it. That's how daft it was, really. But I don't know, but surely you just think it's as easy as getting on park and getting some kicking practice done. But obviously this is over and over, and Danny spoke about it when he came on the podcast about the repetition and what it takes and the extras and all the visualising and everything else. Like, you've got some kickers in the league like Reece Martin that you almost think it's a guaranteed 2 points, so a try's not 4 anymore, it's 6, isn't it? So
yeah,
they've 100% been missing it. How good he's going to be, because obviously he's not been at every club and kicked, has he? But maybe that's just because better kickers have been there. Yeah,
no, it looked alright in the trial game, well, Matty Lee's testimonial game, but it's like I say, it's massive in it. You look at OKR, the reason that they assigned Reece Martin was obviously because they didn't have a goal kicker before that, and nothing were quite working with, say, Michael Lewis and things like that. And I don't want to sound harsh, but I think that was a massive reason why they signed Arthur Morg when they did as well. Obviously, like I say, a goal kicker, and obviously that's what they needed.
But yeah, it's Reece Martin. He got long-term injury.
Yeah. So it's massive. I've been to so many games where how many times have you said we could have won that game if you just kicked them 2? Got them 2 conversions or wherever it is. Massively important and probably massively underrated sometimes, especially when it comes down to them fine margins.
I feel like going right back to Kevin Sinfield at Leeds, you almost thought wherever they were, if it were a penalty somewhere on the field, like just using the scenario of, if it was St Helens last year, if they're getting a penalty and it's 16-14 and they're losing, if they're getting a penalty 40 metres out, I don't think anyone's jumping in to take that kick.
Yeah, you're running it.
Whereas teams before would have been petrified of giving Leeds a penalty anywhere in their own half because they'd think Kevin Sinfield will just turn up and kick the ball. And that's how it's been for teams. They've sort of focused, but then again, sometimes, you even go right back to Jamie Foster for St Helens, who sort of like made half a career in rugby league out of kicking, but it's not the sole thing, is it? So you've got to be able to play as well, I suppose. But yeah, do you know why Jackson Hastings is wearing that white sleeve on his arm? He's got one white thermal sleeve on his arm.
Was it?
So I didn't know if he wore it in the trial game. I didn't know.
I can't remember. It didn't stand out, but I probably just not taking much notice.
Have you seen all like the promo stuff they've had where it's like 5 players and the obviously media stuff for Super League and taking the pictures? They're in the kits.
And he's got
But
one
like
sleeve.
Hastings is like he's not even playing a game there, but he's got a sleeve on. I'd love to know what he's wearing the sleeve for.
If anyone knows,
anyone knows, comments, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. Let us know. Why is Jackson Hastings wearing a sleeve? Maybe Jackson Hastings can let us know.
Yeah.
Maybe he wants to be our next guest. Who knows? But yeah, I think he's going to be a quality signing for Saints.
Yeah.
Like we heard at the Matty Lee's testimonial, he's not ruling out sort of an England call-up at the end of the year. Says sort of his patriotic nature towards England now is extremely high, and he wants to be a part of that. So he could end up having a really good season and just be kind of what Saints have been missing for sort of the last couple of years, really.
Yeah, 100%, yeah. He's up there.
I'm going to go, and I wouldn't have gone this 2 weeks ago. We spoke about it, or maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. We spoke about it on last week's podcast. Cruz Lehman.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be really good for Catalan.
Yeah.
I just feel like they were missing. They can't be putting Garcia there. I know he was stepping in and filling a void. Jacosta, I'm not sure is up to much. I know he's been around there for years. But yeah, obviously I think he's got the 9. But yeah, Cruz Leaving's like another level, not just for what he brings as a player, but he's been part of winning teams now.
Yeah, he's done it everywhere, hasn't he, really? Done it at Leeds, and he had a really good spell at Giants as well before he went to Leeds, and obviously, like I say, his career speaks for itself. I think he'll do really well over there. I think it'll suit his game as well, being the main 9 instead of being at Wigan behind O'Neill. So I think him going over there and just being like the standout 9 and the main man who's probably going to be doing 60-70 minutes a game. I think it's going to massively suit him, and I think he'll enjoy it possibly.
Yeah, I think he just brings, and he's probably at a stage of his career as well where he's probably thinking. It's not like the latter end of his career, but he's a classed as an experienced player now. And what's to say, like I know we've got sort of Jez Litton, Daz Clark were in there last year for the Ashes, but what's to say Lehman can't have a really good year and get in the England squad? Surely that's on the horizon. That's like probably the one thing I'm sure, I think he won the Challenge Cup with Leeds. I could be wrong. I think he won the Challenge Cup with Leeds. And then he's won the Grand Final.
Treble.
With Wigan, where he's done the treble with Wigan, World Cup Challenge. Scored in that World Cup Challenge as well, I think. So he's kind of done most of the stuff over here now.
Yeah, 100%.
I think it's just maybe playing for England, which he's always seemed to be sort of overlooked.
Yeah, but to be fair, it's probably one area that we haven't struggled for, though, in it. Like, compared to like other positions, like we've sometimes maybe gone in there, maybe being lacking, say, backs, or being short in back row or something like that. But I just think 9 position, especially with the longevity we've had over some. Like, Josh Hodgson played in there.
Yeah, that's
so them sort of players. So James Roby in his pomp and all through his career, you're not picking anyone over him, are you really? So a little bit unlucky in that aspect, but I'd definitely say like him going over there, like being back of his mind. I think a lot of positions are up for grabs, and a lot of players will be thinking like I could potentially get into this squad, like come the World Cup. So yeah, I think he'll go really well, and I think Catalan will go really well as a whole.
I agree, mate. Who's next, pal?
Mine, again, back to Catalan, is Lewis Dodd.
Yeah.
I think he's going to have a little bit of pressure on him, just because, obviously, I think he's going to want to prove a major point, though, to be honest. Obviously, he's been over to Salves. Obviously, it was a failure. I think he'll probably potentially class it in that himself. It was a failure. I don't think it was down to his fault, though. Didn't really get a chance, did he, to settle into the team, or didn't really just get a gig in general, to be honest. A few appearances off the bench.
We're not privy to what sort of happened, but from the outside in, it just looks like something just didn't go right. He never really got a chance. There was stuff said, obviously, in the media, but like you say, it'd be interesting to know from himself, like what the particular things that kind of weren't going well for himself, whether that be off the field, on the field. What were the other factors that were linked to that not going how maybe it was meant to go? Because he didn't go over there on $100,000 a year.
No, I went on big. Yeah, to be fair, I used the term failure. I don't think it was a failure. Like I say, he'll have experienced a lot of great things out there, and it'll have helped him. I know, like I say, he hasn't played that many, but he didn't play many first grade games and things like that. But it'll have massive helped him in his career going forward, and he's still only young. He earned a nice little buck or two, didn't he, over there? So, yeah, failure were wrong, but just in terms of playing wise, it won't have gone how he wanted it to go. Definitely not. And I think him coming back to Catalans this year, obviously being there, starting 7, and he's already extended for another year. I think it's massive for Catalan, massive for him, and I think he'll definitely want to show people over here.
I think, like Danny said the other week, pressure's always there for a scrum half.
Yeah.
Like, naturally you absorb the pressure of all teammates because you're directing at you. It's almost like, we use the phrase that you're coaching on the field almost at that point. He's never been short of that, and you could see that at Saints. I feel like what just didn't really help him was the fact he didn't leave Saints on a great note, to be fair. No. And a lot of these players sometimes will go off to the NRL. So we use Morgan Knowles as an example, possibly what Harry Newman and McDonald are looking for this year. You want to have a good season that you're then going into it. Yeah, you're taking that into the NRL, and fair enough. Like our English players are going to be judged as soon as they go over there. They're going to be judged, but like all of them can play. Like Lewis Dodd doesn't go from being one of the best halfbacks at youth age to coming into the Saints team at a young age to dominate and winning grand finals, clutch plays and World Cup challenges, to then not being good enough. So I think it'll do him a massive favour coming back over here, and that environment as well. Not going to say you're Warrington on big marquee money. I mean, I'm sure he won't be short of a penny at Catalan as well, but or do you know what I mean? Like going to a club like Cass, been on megas, or Warrington on megas, or going back to Saints and that pressure's on. I feel like there's slightly less pressure, just possibly because he's not in the eyesight of the diehards of rugby league that are saying you're not good enough, or they'll be wanting the best, and French fans are passionate, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they've got a good squad for this year as well. So
very good.
Expecting them to well. Like it just helps knowing like Lewis Dodd's. He's your 7 for 2 years now. That was my only query with them at the beginning when we first did our prediction. Like you had Lewis Dodd, Sexton, just on 1 year deals, and it could cause a little bit of discontent knowing that you're probably going to need a new spine again for. Especially at the time as well, they didn't have a 9 as well, and they've only got Cruz leaving for a 12-month loan, so it just causes a bit of discontent knowing you're going to have to restart again with your whole spine. So knowing you're keeping him, and it's a massive help keeping your 7 who can fish a guide around the park. At least, like you say, he did it at Saints. They a really good World Cup challenge, unbelievable performance, and obviously he showed what he can do by getting the deal at Souths. Anyway, it might not have worked out the way he or other people expected to it, but he's still right up there as a top player.
Yeah, definitely. I can't see that being a loan to go back to Wigan, can you? The leaning.
Problem is with Wigan, you don't know what they're going to do. I just don't know what they're going to do with the cap. Well, the problem is for Wigan, it's just how they juggle the cap. If they can keep Cruz Lehman on, I think Cruz Lehman will stay again next year. But again, it depends, doesn't it? Because if Tom Forber has a flat blinder this year, then
or someone else,
even younger, or just whoever it is, or they might get an opportunity to sign someone that they might think that's a little bit more us. So, but I think you are right. I don't think Cruz Lehman does return to play for Wigan next year. But I think it's more to do with the cap, but if Tom Forber does have a good year, then Wigan might just be like, look, we're happy with Tom Forber and Brad O'Neill.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm going to go with a Castleford player, and I think not just based it on that one game. I was a bit surprised when he signed there, to be fair. I don't know, I thought he might have just been one of them players that kind of always just stayed NRL, but Ravawala at Cass. So we saw the size of him in that testimonial game against St Helens, and he looks like he hadn't come over here for holiday that way.
No.
We spoke about it before, like Cass just seemed to have missed players coming out of yardage, and I tell you what, if you want someone to bring you out of yardage and backfield, he's like Ryan Alltimes too, isn't it?
He
was huge. An absolute unit, but he's going to be able to finish tries as well. I don't think he'll be acrobatically diving in the corner, but I don't think he'll need to, because I think he'll just Vinacolo him out of the way, I think. But I think he'll be massive for them. More so, maybe even if it's not for the try scoring sort of prowess, I do feel like just that relief of just getting out of yardage. You know, they've missed that for years. Like, I even go right back to when Justin Carney played at Cass. Like, you were like an absolute wrecking ball coming out. They just seem to have missed it, and I do feel like adding that bit of size, like, it's not like little old Cass, is it? You know, they seem to have looked like they've tried to bring some size to the club. Yeah. So I think he'll be massive for Cass this year. Yeah,
I do. They look really well in the... just looks like a big handful, which is going to be what it is, the size of him. And for the size of him as well, like, he's not short in the pace department either, which is going to be massively beneficial for Castleford, because although they've had a big transformation and I expect them to have a lot better season than they did last year, they're still going to be going into some games where they are under the pump, and having someone like him coming out of their own 20, carting ball forward he's going to get you over 10 metres a time. So I think he's going to be massive for them.
Yeah, I agree. And signing number 3, who are you going for?
So I'm actually going to follow you on to Cass, but I'm going to go Blake Taff.
I think jury's out on him.
Yeah, might be potentially, but no one can argue what he did over in the NRL. And he's come over here, and like I say, in that testimonial game, he just didn't put a foot wrong. Under high ball with immense amount of pressure, just took everything in his stride. It's fast, agile. He's your literally typical like sort of Lockie Miller, Bevan French, Jai Field that came over. Is he as good yet? We don't know. We're going to see this season, but I think as an impact signing, especially when the Castleford fans probably found out, we've signed Blake Taff, that was a massive and quite a big statement signing, I believe, as well for Castleford.
What do you think I'm not comparing him to like Tex Hoy, but what does he add different to what Tex Hoy maybe was meant to bring when he kind of came over here?
It's hard to say. I think pace-wise, a lot quicker.
No substitute for that.
Yeah, unfortunately, you look at Jai Field and like sometimes in a game you'll be watching it and you'll be like, he's done nothing, and all of a sudden a gap opens up and that's it, he's gone, and then that's the moment you remember in it when you go home. Then like you don't remember, say, whoever it is, having a good performance or forward, like
someone making 6 tackles in a row, like, you just don't remember on 80 tackles.
You just remember him just jinking past 3 or 4 players, going the full distance. So I think that sort of side, I think he just brings a lot more. Obviously, he can play in arms as well. But I think people that have watched him over in NRL as well, which I did. I didn't watch loads of him, but I did watch him for the Souths more, so I haven't seen him play for the Bulldogs, but he always just looked like just a good player. He works hard, and like I say, I think he will bring a lot more to that team than a lot of other signings will across the other teams, and I think he's a massive signing for Castleford.
Yeah, but when I say the jury's out, I think you see so many players, don't you, come over, and to be fair, it could have gone either way for Lockie Miller. I know he's found his feet a bit now, but there was a period when he first came over where I think even Leeds fans were well unsure. Even the eyeball, like, there's that security, and it used to be a bit like not the olden day fullback, but less so the modern one. It was more about security, catching ball, being able to make tackles. Yeah. Obviously the game's changed, hasn't it? It's advanced into more of a running, attacking style fullback, similar to a 6 and 7, I suppose. But I'm really interested to see how he goes, and it seems Cass fans are enthusiastic about the signing. I think they'll admittedly say, if they've not been watching a lot of NRL or Feeder Cup stuff, they won't know really anything about it. It's more hope and optimism, isn't it, with him? But I hope for their sake he hits the ground running and they actually have a genuine star player on the hands, because quite possibly they could have. He does look electric. What's that going to look like though in February and March?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
That'll be interesting. Do you know, like, if I don't know how their fixtures run, but if they've got, say, Bradford away and they're at Odsal on a Friday night and it's grounds boggy and dewy, like, is that going to affect his game? Is he then able to revert back to a safe fullback? Like we spoke about Max Jowett before. You want safety, sort of in numbers. You Max Jowett. I don't think he's not electric, is he? But he's someone that is kind of like the old school sort of fullback. He reminds me like a Paul Wellens sort of fullback. Them sort of players. So it'll be interesting to see how he goes. I think, as you say, it could be quite a shrewd signing, really, and offer a lot to him. So fingers crossed he does well this season for him. A bit of a rogue one for me. I'm gonna throw in a Bradford player. I feel like he he's never hit the heights, and it's probably been through his own. I think he had a period of a ban as well in the NRL when he were at Roosters or after Roosters. But Jayden Nikorima, obviously he's gone to Bradford. We're at Salford for a period.
I really liked him at Salford.
Looked okay. I don't think he brings, anything too fancy, but I think he could quite easily do a job for them.
Yeah, 100%. I really liked him at Salford.
I remember him coming through at Roosters, and he must have been really young then. I think he came through with Jackson Hastings at Roosters.
Yeah.
And I remember they were playing Saints in the World Club Challenge series, and they played kids. Like Latrell Mitchell was still a kid at that point, and they just tore Saints apart. It was like Saints' first team that had just won the grand final. It might have been 2015 actually. Probably, yeah, it sounds about right. That 2015, and Nikorima played that night, and I thought he was going to be class. Like, he was really, really good, really strong player. I think Cody, his brother, was already. I think he's the older one, isn't he, Cody? Obviously, he's doing well for himself at the minute as well. So, yeah, I think he could quite easily have a really good year for Bradford, and he's probably a signing that might go under the radar. We speak about Ryan Sutton, players like that have gone there, but yeah, just because he's part of that collective that have gone from Salford. People might just think, it's just another player, wasn't good enough at Salford, so what's he going to do at Bradford? But we might be surprised. He might end up tearing it up for him, to be fair.
Yeah, I really like him. Like I said, I thought he was really good at Salford. I think you know what you're getting with him, sort of thing. Like, he loves to run the ball, loves to create things. I always class him as like, your little magic flair players.
Not to compare him, but like Rangi Chafes.
Yeah, something like that. Like, he'll bring something out of nothing, create a good situation, and I think he will actually be massive for Bradford. I'm quite impressed when they did sign him, obviously, with the Salford situation. I did know, obviously, he was going to be going to another Super League club, but I'll be honest, I thought he could have been going somewhere higher up the table, but I think he's massive. He's going to be massive for Bradford, and yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him play down there, yeah, 100%.
Signing number 4, who are you going for?
I'm going with this one just because I think he's just going to have a really good season, more so than having an impact on the players around him or like bringing the team to success. But Klepetang, I know, at Warrington, loved him at Wakefield, loved him at KR. Warrington fans all seem buzzing that he signed there. He's just a strong, powerful back rower, and also got pace, as I mentioned before in the previous podcast. Just love him. I think he's class. Like I say, runs hard. You know exactly what you're getting with him, and I think he could be really good for Warrington this year.
I agree. He was actually in my top 5, so I'm going to have a good job. I had a little wild card up the sleeve as well, but he was in the top 5, so he was going to be my 5th one, I'd say. But again, I really liked him at Wakefield. Just like, he's got loads of pace as well.
Yeah, loads.
Arms are massive, but he just looks like if you've got him on an unders line, running next to on inside shoulder of an half-back, they'd be struggling. They'd be doubling up on him. 100%. I think he's a sort of player like you're doubling up on.
Yeah, 100%.
But he's got good footwork, good hands. He could be, again, like what we just said with Nikorima, a real good bit of business for Warrington. I don't think he'll be cheap. But their only concern, and we mentioned this a lot before, is previous history suggests he does have injuries, whether it be hammies or whatever it might be. So, more like soft tissue sort of injuries. You're sort of looking at it thinking, if you could get a full season out of him, it's a dream team back row.
100%.
But it's that stability and security of a fan, a coach, whatever it might be, that you're looking thinking, are you going to get a full year out of him?
Yeah.
It always makes you wonder. I mean, I know he's been at KR, but he was kind of in and out, had a few injuries. Reece Martin comes in. I think we played opposite sides anyway. But then Dean Hadley were performing well, so it's like, I think he just kind of didn't quite.
Yeah, he'll have been on a fair bit of brass, and OKR, obviously, like I said, they've already signed him a back rower, haven't they? Or someone who can play there, and Lawton. It'll have just been a sort of thing for them. If they could have kept him with Cap and things like that, but are they going to get out from keeping him? Probably not. So they must have decided. But massive, it's great signing for Warrington, and I'd dare said he'd probably had a few other suitors if Warrington weren't knocking at his door first anyway as well.
I think so, mate. I think he'll have had plenty of clubs that would have been interested in getting his signing. It would have been a bit of a late deal.
Yeah, it was a late deal.
I'm sure it was an off-season deal.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't long ago anyway. It might have been start of pre-season, something like that.
I think he's definitely a decent bit of business for Warrington. Probably adds something a little bit different. Obviously, they'll have Curry on one side, won't they? Him on another.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think like he'll probably add something to them. It's just how much they get out of him, I suppose. But definitely, I think he would have been suited to a fair few clubs, to be fair. But yeah, interesting to see how he goes, mate. I'm gonna bring it to Wigan now. Again, we sort of spoke about this a few times and just kind of said like with Wigan, I think their issue now is like they've had. I'm not saying they haven't had a dynasty, but they won the obviously they win the treble. Yeah, the local challenge in the Challenge Cup Grand Final. They're in a period of time, aren't they, where them players that were coming through. So when they had the likes of Harvey Hill, players like that are coming through and they're playing obviously more and more minutes. Contracts are obviously then renewed. Probably clauses are triggered where it makes contracts slightly larger. They have obviously got a lot of homegrown talent, but you've still got players on big money. I mean, dread to think like what Bevan French, Jai Field, these sort of players, Harry Smith, Junior and Semba, to keep hold of these sort of lads. What kind of money? Liam Marshall is not going to be cheap. So bringing Luke Thompson in, Ollie Wilson's obviously come in. They've got Sam Walters. I think there were competition for him, so I think they'll have had to have paid him handsomely as well. You can sort of understand why they've not been able to bring in like a huge coup signing.
Yeah, it's one of those, isn't it? It's difficult, although yeah, probably a lot of people are looking at it saying Wigan haven't brought anyone in, but it's quite hard for Wigan to bring in.
100%, and I think that's what happened with St Helens for a couple of years.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, if you're looking across your roster and be like, right, where do we need to strengthen? There's not many places, so they looked at the start of the season, thought could have a bit more size to pack. They went out and got Ollie Wilson, and obviously he's got the Achilles injuries, hence why they've got Parton to back in. But like, it's one of those, and when you are winning, it's important, as we've seen across all sports, not just rugby, it's important to keep refreshing the recycle, because I think this is where Saints went wrong, is Saints kept the same team for too long. Yeah. Players got older. Unfortunately, if you want to be at the top for a large amount of time, is you need to keep refreshing the players, because players are only going to start getting older, and it sounds harsh, but some players, start to die off before. Sort of maybe they're only 28 and they're starting to die off, but fortunately you're going to have to go out and replace them and chop change. And
I think that's the thing, like the loyalty obviously goes so far, and I think a lot of clubs find it where if you looked at every club, I reckon you could pick a player out that's kind of held there still on loyalty, merit, just using players like Saints obviously kept Lomax, Percival, possibly too much longer than maybe they should have done. You almost feel like, is it a cultural thing? That's why they keep them in. They're obviously great players within their own right,
100%.
But it makes you think, are there other players that are around? And it's not to say it needs to be 18, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds. There could be 26-year-old, 27-year-old that are coming into the peak. You look at Wigan, they've obviously kept Liam Farrell. Like, is that too long? You look at Cass, Joe Westerman. There's players in there. You could argue with like Huddersfield. They had Michael Lawrence for a long time. Joe, players like that they obviously add value in different ways. And if that works, that works. But then you can't help but look at it and think, are there some teams that hold on to players for possibly too long? And then that's when the cap space is squeezed so tightly that they can't bring anyone in. I always remember Reeve Grace going, who will have been on a decent contract, I would have thought at that time. And then Saints fans were like, oh, who are they bringing in? Who are going to get in for that? And then they put number 5 shirt on John Benison. And it's like he played a few games, obviously got a grand final appearance and scored. And then it were a bit like it just didn't really work out.
Yeah.
Not a bad player, but he's... hopefully for him, leaving Saints will go on to elevate his career a little bit, but it sort of leaves you wondering, the teams change. It's hard, isn't it? It's sport, it's business, it's salary cap sport. It's really tough, I think, for teams to be able to manage that effectively. It takes very good CEOs, I think, to be able to sort of do that and change it. But going back to my point, if you'd have asked me, again, 3-4 weeks ago, I wouldn't have been probably saying anyone from Wigan. Obviously, they've signed some young lads, but I think Ollie Partington.
Yeah.
There were definitely other suitors for him, and there were a lot of rumours possibly going to different clubs. There were rumours. I was quite surprised when he actually ended up back at Catalan for pre-season training. But professional, he's turned up, he's done it. Whether there was something that was on the cards anyway, and maybe Catalan were waiting on something else to go through, I don't know, because there were large rumours he would off to Saints. I don't know if Warrington got mentioned. So he's obviously suited to big clubs.
Yeah, but it might not be correct, like I say, we're not privy to it, but I think December 1st, I think he had actually signed for Wigan for the following year. So obviously it's been brought forward, but yeah, he's a great player, like I say. Wigan will know what they're getting with him. He knows what worked with Matt Pete in the youth system at Wigan, so they'll go hand in hand together. Matt Pete knows what he's getting. I think anybody knows what they're getting when you get Ollie Parton's. You're going to get a workhorse out. He loves tackling, I think he's one of those players that loves the dirty work sort of thing. Like, he's not afraid to get stuck in. Interesting to see how they manage it with him and Cade Ellis, who was going to get the 13 shirt. And
I think he'll be playing Brockme, Ellis. No, I think Partington will just play 13.
Well, I'd think so as well. I'd play Partington 13, but like I say, we're not Matt Pete, are we? So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. But I think either way, I think Ollie Partington's one of those. Even if he did have to go in it properly, he's one of them. He'll just do a job. Like, he can do a very good, solid job for you. He's good enough in there. So
good player. I don't think there's many players, mate, that leave Wigan and end up back at Wigan.
Yeah, it's massive. It is massive.
That says a lot, I think. Yeah. And especially, like, he's not going back there on a year contract. It's like a 5-year contract.
5-year deal.
Like, he's gone off. Fair play to him. Like, for whatever reason, he left the club, ended up at Salford, were one of the bigger, better standout players in that squad. And then obviously went to Catalan, had a good season there. And I'm sure he got their player of the year last year as well. And then obviously he's got his reward, if you like, and he's got a 5-year contract back at Wigan. I don't think there's many players that do that. You seem to find that players sometimes might leave, say, Cass or Wakey, and then 6-7 years later down the line they might end up back there, whereas there ain't many that leave Saints, Wigan, Leeds and then end up back at them clubs. So Watkins has done it with Leeds, but Hardaker did it briefly, but definitely with Wigan and Saints there's not many. So testament to him, I suppose.
100%.
Getting back there, he looks different to me. I don't know if he looks more lightweight or what. He just looks. I even seen some of the clips from where it's Saturday or Sunday they played that LFC Wigan. They just nicked it, didn't they?
They managed to nick it, but Lou Martin with hat-trick. He's my dream shield man as well, yeah. So, but yeah, good game.
Yeah, and I think Marshall scored first try as well on his own testimonial, which obviously quite fitting for him in that sense.
By all accounts, it was a good game. Obviously, I wasn't there, but pretty decent game. I think it's just one of those, you just get a bit of oxygen in the tank, don't you? Get your lungs filled, and
so I think everyone's thinking just get the season started now. And if we're thinking it, then players must be thinking it now. We've got a week and a half left now.
Yeah, you don't know how to take it. I don't know how to take, like I say, but we spoke a little bit about the Saints, Castleford one. I just don't know how to take them. So yeah, Castleford, St Helens did what they did, but then you're thinking, like, are they going to translate that into the season? Or because like I said, I think all friendlies, regardless of scoreline, they do look a bit scrappy. So you never know how much you can always take positives from them, negatives and things like that. So I think it's just one of those. After, like I said, I've watched a few pre-season friendlies now this year, and I'm just looking forward to getting stuck in.
Yeah, definitely. Me too. I agree. So Partington for me, mate. What about your last one?
So last one, I'm going to go with Smoother from Wakefield. I think it's just one of those. Wakefield will definitely know what they're getting with him. He's just an all-round solid 9. He's just come off the back of winning the final over in Brisbane and being a key player in that. So to get a signing like that over the line
it's massive
for Wakefield, it's absolutely huge. And even just the presence that he's going to have around, like, sort of the training, training around the younger guys like Harvey Smith and things like that, who looks like he's got a really good future. He's massive for them sort of players as well.
What does it look like for Harvey Smith then? Because he would obviously getting a lot of game time last year. I think he's got a really big future in the game. Actually, it looks really well. Standalone 9. He's not going to be going off and playing 15 or fullback or wing or centre or back row, whatever. He's a 9 and he's an out-and-out 9. What does it look like for him? Obviously, bringing him in, surely, well, that does help because you're around an NRL Grand Final winner who's been part of that NRL environment, still young, but does it stifle Harvey Smith a little bit? Is he not going to be getting as much game time this year? Because they've also got Jazz Vega that can drop in at 9.
I think it's one of those, like they've signed a lot of players, Wakefield, that, like I say, can cover different positions, or like you know what you're going to get with them. I don't think Harvey Smith will be too worried. I think he'll definitely, obviously, like I say, he's got the 17 shirt or something like that, so he knows he's got that bench spot. And again, he's still only young. How old is he? He's 21 still, 22. He's really young still. So for him, it's just still learning. He signed a massive long-term deal, and I think, you know, for him to be learning off someone like that who's been over there, just won the grand final, played in, you know, one of the biggest games, you know, across rugby league, and like I say, he'll have different experiences to tell and things like that. And like I say, same old rugby league, and there's going to be injuries across the season. I'd be very shocked if Smoothie manages to play all 28 rounds or whatever it is. Just like it is across with any player. It's very rare that does happen. So Harvey Smith he'll get his opportunities, and I'm sure he'll take them. Like I said, he did unbelievable last year, and like I said, I do expect another big year from him as well.
Just going back to you saying about that, you know, it's a massive signing for Wakefield. It is, isn't it? You know, we've got one at CEOs, I can't remember which one, or one at coaches, were saying like, gone are the days where it's just your Saints and Wigan and Leeds that sign big players, like, you know, and we are seeing that more and more often now. Kind of Hull KR started that, they're bringing in big players. You've got Catalan that are attracting you say big players, like your NRL overseas players. And obviously with the quota spot's been extended now, we are naturally going to see more overseas signings, but possibly it is that, and it's all kind of balancing itself out. I mean, it's criminal if every club is not spending the 100% cap space. That's criminal. That shouldn't be happening in the game. Like, if they want it to be an even split across, everyone should be spending that cap space.
I don't know. That's a problem, but they're not, are they? That is the problem.
You just hope
a lot of clubs are.
Hull KR have evidently done that, and I don't think they will have been in years gone by. Things have changed off the field, commercially, everything else, and they're at a point now where they've got that luxury to be able to do that. And hopefully, like your teams like Wakefield, for them to be able to compete, they need to. We're going to look at Bradford, York, Toulouse. They can't be spending the cap.
Well, no, it'd be impossible for them money-wise. They haven't had enough time, have they, anyway, to recruit,
It's another story for another day, but do these promoted teams, do they need to have like a significant boost of, you know, they've been promoted, similar to when your footy teams do it into the Premier League, they get that boost of cash going into it, and it gives them that opportunity to be able to cover X amount of wages on a wage bill for the next 3 seasons with parachute payments and all that sort of stuff. There probably is something like that in place. I just don't think it's to the scale of obviously what football is. So they just seem to be so far behind. It's almost like they can't build for 3 years down the line. So you talk with AD and Blees before, say, oh, we're already looking at 2028, 2029. Well, I don't think Toulouse or Bradford or York are looking at signings for 2028, 29.
That's why London should have come up.
It's a project, isn't it, where they've been able to. But London would make more sense. Whether they have more fans or not, probably not. I mean, it looks like they had a good trial thing the other day, but the first game of the season, wasn't it? Sorry.
They do get a fair few fans, to be fair. Like, it's not as bad as some Super League clubs. They would have spent the full cap. They would have got some very good marquee signings who they've already come out and said. Yeah, they've already come out and said who they plan to get and who would have come pending the Super League, getting into Super League. So that's why, for me, London should have come up. It'd be massive for the game down there, and it's attractive for big overseas stars. In fact, I'll tell you where. Because, to be fair, this is why the whole clubs have had issues over the years. Where would you rather live if you're coming from Australia, London, or Hull?
Well, there's no argument, is it?
That's why the Lancashire players have always seemed to get better, because a lot of the overseas in Lancashire live in Manchester. No one wants to go live in Hull. No disrespect to Hull, but no one does want to go live down in Hull. If you're coming over from overseas, you want to live in like the city lifestyle. You want to be part of what you think there's like Manchester and stuff like that is just a small version of London.
And it's not the place, is it? It's the opportunities of being in a particular area. So it's like, again, reverting it back to the football, for instance. No one wants to go to Newcastle. That's not because Newcastle is not a very nice place. That's because the opportunities are limited.
You
either do something in the northeast, or your closest thing is going to Harrogate, Leeds. Like, there's nothing else around it. Or you go to Scotland,
Yeah.
Whereas, you've got London, you've got that opportunity for everything. There's mass opportunities in London.
It's just a lifestyle, isn't it? That's what it is. It's the lifestyle. People want to live there. People want to enjoy the time there.
Down stuff where you're overseas, though, another thing to take into account is whether we like it or not, they do come over probably thinking, actually, we're going to get to travel around Europe.
100%.
We're going to get to Spain, France, Germany, wherever, Canaries, whatever they want to go to. If they went to, say, London or Manchester, they've got a straight route out through an airport. They go to Hull. Well, what airport are they going from? You know what I mean?
Yeah, Hull. Yeah.
It means driving somewhere, if they can. Like, probably some of these overseas players, like, whether they get time off in the week, whether they're out of the cup, whatever it might be, the opportunity to go away for a few days doesn't want to be hindered when they've only got 3 days off by travelling from Hull to Manchester to stay overnight in an hotel to then go on a flight.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't always work for Catalan, but that's why Catalan have always managed to get better overseas players than other clubs. It's not the fact that they're paying more, which happens with every club, that I'm sure they probably offered a bit more than certain things, but
well, that's it.
If you want to live there,
you get offered 250 grand to be marquee, go play at Cass, or you'll get offered 220 to go play for Catalan.
If you're an RL player, you're off to Catalan. This is the thing. Obviously, it's nice when I'm over there, which we know they like that anyway. They don't really like the code, but not just that. It's the same always across. It used to be. And all players say it, and I know fans probably won't be happy with it, especially the Hull fans and stuff like that. But I feel like I'm targeting Hull. But it's the same with like Huddersfield. Any overseas signers that comes to Huddersfield, a lot of them don't live in Huddersfield. They live in Leeds, or they might live in Manchester. Over like that happens with a lot of them. It's the same across like these.
Especially if they're like younger players that are coming over. And I know we've kind of digressed off topic here. It's probably important to talk about, and for that understanding for fans to know that it's not the place, it's that opportunity. And as you've said with Huddersfield, there's some really nice places for if it was a family.
Yeah, 100%.
So if it were the player, Mrs., 2 kids, 3 kids, whatever, 1 kid, probably a little bit more settled, just want that kind of like nice, chilled out sort of like family lifestyle where they can go out for meals and be involved with the other families and things like that. If you're 23 and you're coming over and you're single, you're not going to want to sat in sticks in Huddersfield, are you?
Well, no, there's no here.
There's no what to do.
But you'd want to
be.
be.
Again, we go back to like Cass, Wakey. They're not going to be they won't want to be there.
Yeah, it's like Cass overseas. They'll most of them. I'm pretty sure most of them live in Leeds, and it's the same with all of them. And that's the problem you do get. Like, to be fair, I just quite like Hull. I don't, I don't think negatively about the place. But like I said, it's just with the overseas signing, they want to live in these big cities, and and they view it as an opportunity to go. It's the same as. Off the top of my head, I've been to Australia only when I was really younger, but if you got offered now to go play for, say...
Canberra or Manly.
Yeah, it's the same sort of vibe, like Sydney Roosters. Like Sydney Roosters could offer you 200,000, or like I say, it's like Penrith, or like Canberra. Like a lot of English players that play for Canberra don't like living in Canberra because it's not what you expect. When you think of Australia, don't you think beaches, blue sea,
coastal line,
just having a walk down, and whereas Canberra's like really city, like George Williams touched on it when he went over there, and John Bateman's touched on it when he was there as well. So it's the same vice versa.
Yeah.
So it's one of those. But like I say, the good thing is about it now is players are open to it. Like I say, OKR and FC both attracted them overseas players. And I think like we've took a step up from where we was, say, maybe 10 years ago.
Definitely, yeah.
So
I agree with that.
All good anyway.
One positive, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then I suppose just bringing us on to my 5th one, we will do some notable kind of mentions of players what we think of. We've not shouted out today, but easy are going to be good signings for their clubs. But I'm just going to go back to Tyler Dupree, and I know I've mentioned him a few times, but I think in terms of Toulouse, what have they really brought in? Possibly, did they already have kind of a Super League standard squad last season? Could be argued. They did obviously just push on and manage to win that, within their own right to get it after York had a really good campaign last season. Bradford as well obviously finished well and had a really good season too, but they had more kind of championship squads. I know York added and stuff, which were great. But I think Toulouse possibly could have been seen as already having maybe a Super League squad. Not that they were going to hit the likes of top 6 and stuff, but they could have probably competed for and been bottom 2 or something in Super League last year. But yeah, in terms of signings of going over there, I just think there's a real intent from Tyler Dupree to go over there and not prove a point as such, because he's got his England call up. He's played for England. He went to Wigan, did really well at Wigan. Seems like a real genuine guy as well that's just wants to play rugby.
Yeah.
So for him to take himself out of his own comfort zone of I think he's an Halifax lad, but taking him out of there and going over to Toulouse is that's huge, because I'm sure he wouldn't really know what he's going into, I suppose. So there's not loads of sort of high-profile players over there either, or players that possibly played with before. But yeah, I know they've got the likes of Ashall Bott still, players like that are still around there, and sort of they've had that team together. That's the one thing that might just help them a little bit.
That's
their
how
squad is slightly more settled than maybe Bradford and York squad. But I just think Dupree's going over there to again just prove that point of like, I can be a starting prop for a team. Possibly will he end up back over here after a year? Who knows? He might do really well. There's no reason why he can't be main man over there and get into that England team again. Yeah, and I hope he does.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one. One of those now, innit? I know he's got a few years left on his contract at Wigan, but when he comes back now, they've got Oliver Wilson, obviously Partington, and they've got like
Thompson.
Does he go back into that squad? No, he doesn't. So does he go out on loan again, or does someone?
And there'll be more players to bring through.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's one of those with Wigan. Obviously, like I say, we've seen it as well. I've seen Chris Radlinski talk about it and watched the We Are Wigan documentary and things like that, and see him talk about it. This is the problem now because of the salary cap sport, and we're losing young players to the NRL. You focus on tying these players down, and I'm not saying Tyler Dupree definitely wasn't disappointed at Wigan, but they've tied him down on a massive contract, and they've obviously it's been there 2 years now, 2.5 years. Yeah. So and he's not what they want, but they've still got him left on a massive contract for another 2 years. I think it was a 4.5 year deal they signed him on. So it's like I say, it comes back to this salary cap thing, doesn't it? But him going over there, take nothing away from him. He's an unbelievable player. And like I said, I think he'd have had a few suitors as well. I think maybe he might have chose to go over there because weather or different.
Yeah, it sounds like maybe possibly a lifestyle choice and a life experience and all that sort of stuff as well, which gets added into it. So fair play to him for taking himself over there. I suppose we'll just wrap it up by giving a few notable mentions. So I'll give 3.
Yeah.
I think Nenny McDonald, a very, very good signing for Saints. Last minute, I think. This thing about, I think he's had 10 clubs now. I've seen some, obviously, his NRL teams plus Super League teams. He's obviously left mid-season and stuff like that as well. And we've sort of like not really known what's going on with him at times. Back home, back over here, homesick, back at whoever else. That ain't going to settle at Saints. That's not going to be allowed. As soon as he starts playing up there, it'll be on your bike. I just can't see it. They'll all probably say it, but he said he's in the best shape he feels he's been in his career. And that's after a short pre-season, to be fair. He's just a bit of a maverick, a free player. I think he'll do really well for Saints. Jackson Field, I think will be an interesting one at Wakey. But he got a bit of game time as well in pre-season. Might just be the right thing for him to have left Leeds and try something new, similar to what we just said there with Dupree. He could quite easily go over to Wakey and just absolutely kill it.
Yeah.
There's a player there, isn't there? But his opportunities have been limited at Leeds. He's been at Hooker, he's been at Arbs. Where's his best position? I don't think anyone knows. Could it be at Hooker? At Wakey, I don't think he's going there to play Hooker. We've just spoke about. They've got Arbis Smith, Smoothie and Tobago that probably could go in at Hooker. So he ain't going there to play Hooker. So he's going to be an out-and-out half-back. I think he'll have his opportunity to play there. So yeah, interesting to see how he goes. And then I kind of forgot about him a little bit, but another person that's kind of like on strange circumstance left Leeds, ended up at Warrington, but Bentley.
Yeah.
Like, you forget about him, don't you? But another player that's kind of, he rose through at Bradford. Saints took him as a championship young player at year winner or player at year winner. Don't think he played at all, or very rarely in his first season there. Went out on loan a bit, came through, ended up being a starting back rower. Loves a penalty, but just seemed to, all of a sudden, I'm off to Leeds, goes to Leeds. I'd probably been alright, but I think he'll have gone there on megas, more than what he would on at Saints. Fair play to him, short career. and now obviously he's ended up over at Warrington, which we're not sure why, but possibly a great signing for Warrington, if he's the right sort of player and fits in the cap space. But yeah, could really add something. We spoke about there's Tanganoa, there's Ben Curry. Where does that leave Bentley as third choice? Is he second choice? Is he first choice? Like, interesting to see where he plays. I know he came off bench, I think, other night, didn't he, against Lee, and by all accounts had a pretty good game for him. So you know what you're getting from him. He's aggressive, and he does add a lot, but does it suit them? I don't know. But it'll be interesting. I think he's a good player, and I think as much as teams, when he's not playing for you, teams won't like him, I think a lot of teams would possibly have him part of the 17. I'm not saying in a starting 30, but a lot would have him in a 17.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're my three notable mentions.
Yeah, I'm going to start off first with mine. I'm going to go Staines at fullback for Catalan. Just interested to see how he gets on, really. I thought it were a good signing when they first signed him. I wasn't expecting him to play fullback. So that's why I'm interested to see how he's going to fare on. Obviously, he's over there, and like I say, they've seen something in him, haven't they? Obviously, they've got an extended sort of coaching. They've got Mickey Mack involved, haven't they, and Tompkins and stuff like that. So obviously, they've seen something in him, and they've obviously gone for him at fullback. And like I say, I've watched him in the NRL. Always been, he's a really good player. So I'm very interested to see how he gets on. And then I'm going to move on to David Clemmer. I think he's got some tough. I know he's got the 13 shirt, but obviously I know we don't think he's going to play 13. But obviously just kind of coming in for obviously Morgan Knowles. You knew what you were getting Morgan Knowles. It was tough as they come, and I think David Clemmer could really add a good temperament to that forward pack. Like I say, he's done it in big games and back home at home. So
we've seen him, didn't we, at the testimonial?
Yeah,
could be one to watch. To be fair, he looks like he's going to take some heads off.
Oh yeah, he's a big unit. So very interested to see how he fares on.
Yeah, good shout.
And the third one, let me think now. Might go for a little bit of a rogue one. I'm actually going to go with Danny Richardson at York, and not just because we've had him on. Probably made me think about him more because we've had him on the podcast. But I think he's going to play a lot more. I know he hasn't got the 7 shirt, but I think he's going to play a lot more than everyone thinks.
I think so. For me, and we discussed it a lot and went through it, like, he's at a period in his career now where he should be the main man.
Yeah.
Like, he won trophies at Saints. His kicking game was class. He offered loads. He said he's probably in the peak of his career as well, in that sense of like how he feels going into a season. And I think before long, so whether they opt to go with Liam Harris to start with, and then Danny Richardson gets the call up, but who knows? We hope he does. What a great bloke to have on the podcast. Delved right into the game for us, and obviously I know those that watched on YouTube and Spotify listened on there. Left some really good comments just in terms of what he brought to this podcast. So we just hope that he has a great season on field, which I'm sure he will. Obviously had some real kind of tough injuries, haven't they?
Yeah, I think sometimes people forget how he was really good at Castleford as well.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people do forget that because obviously because of his injury. Because of his injury problems there, but he's top quality player.
There's been some adversity there, hasn't there, for him, which he sort of delved into. And,
100%.
It's tough. He had young at the same time, and I feel like he's sort of through at that point now to go and have a really good stellar career at York. I think it's a really good signing for him, and and I know he didn't really maybe get the opportunities at OKR, but when he did, being man at match, he were playing well. Danny Richardson, good shout, mate. So that kind of brings us to a close for this episode this week. So our top 5 signings each across different clubs, and then some notable mentions as well, with a little bit of digressing into a couple of other topics in between. But hopefully you've enjoyed another episode of Unfiltered Rugby League. Thanks again to Nova Coffee and Sissit Huddersfield for sponsoring and hosting our podcast as always. And don't forget to like and subscribe on our YouTube and Spotify channels. Thank you very much.
Cheers, guys.